Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something epic to take a look at, something I've been really looking forward to, as we have the Star Ace Wonders of the Wild series, Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is something that I've been really hyped for because I love the Wonders of the Wild series, and I love Star Ace specifically. And of course, I love Tyrannosaurus Rex. Who doesn't love a T-Rex? On top of that, I also love Sean Cooper, because Sean Cooper is actually who sculpted this out, and I have a lot, honestly, at this point, of Sean Cooper sculpts in my collection, a lot of which were put there thanks to the Wonders of the Wild series, and I always look forward to checking out anything that was sculpted by him. But this T-Rex specifically is super cool, not because it's the most up-to-date interpretation of a T-Rex, but because, in my opinion, it perfectly represents what a T-Rex would have looked like in the late 90s. For some reason, I just really get that vibe from this figure, and I absolutely feel like that's what it looks like. Again, like a perfect recreation of what T-Rex was portrayed as in the mid to late 90s, not long after Jurassic Park. But it really does look absolutely incredible. You can see, as far as the box art goes, we've got a really nice image of the T-Rex model here on the front of the box. You can also see that we have a little image up here showing that we have a diorama base included, and then of course the Wonders of the Wild series logo right there, and yet again sculpted by Sean Cooper. And then if we actually pull it down carefully and take a look here up at the top of the box, look at that super cool image there of the T-Rex with that really nice backdrop, that very prehistoric sort of looking backdrop that we have going on there. And again, the Star Ace logo up there in the top left-hand corner. And then when we take a look at the back of the box, you can see again we have information on the T-Rex, information on Star Ace, and you can also see just in general a really nice, very appealing visual of the box. Like, really well done, really professional as a whole. I'm way too excited to sit on this any longer. Let's pop this box open and check out this brand new T-Rex from Star Ace. And here it is in all of its glory. We've got the T-Rex here. Going to bring it in nice and carefully. I did attach it to the base prior to bringing it in here, and it looks awesome. Look at how cool it looks. Again, very thin, very different looking appearance compared to the way we view T-Rex nowadays. Nowadays, we have kind of like a very chunky, very big and bulky version of a T-Rex. This is more of a slender looking T-Rex. Again, one of the many reasons why I feel like it's like a perfect interpretation of a late 90s version of a T-Rex. And I love the base. The base is super cool looking. On top of that, you also get a little nameplate there. As you usually do, Star Ace normally includes these in their Wonders of the Wild line. So when you display them, you have a very nice, very professional museum-like display with nameplates for your dinosaurs, and it's a really nice looking nameplate. But of course, the star of the show is our T-Rex, and like I said, it looks absolutely phenomenal. I am impressed, though, to see that the coloration, those like reddish tones, are a little bit darker than they appeared in the original images, the prototype images, and I actually think I like that. I think it looks a lot more natural, especially for the time period that I'm saying that this is kind of like a recreation of a late 90s Rex. I feel like we were still looking at it with kind of darker tones with a little hint of flashiness to it, and that's pretty much exactly what I see here with this Rex. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this absolutely awesome brand new Star Ace release. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our T-Rex, you can see again it looks really cool, and one thing that I noticed straight away is how rough and rugged looking that skin texture looks like. It really looks like it would have a very hard, very tough looking skin texture, and they've portrayed that very nicely in the sculpt. And you can see again, when it comes to Sean Cooper, he's always very good at applying lots of really nice detail. You can see that through the course of the entire head, honestly, of the T-Rex, but I'm sure it'll continue on through the entire body. You can see kind of like slightly larger scales, almost osteoderm-like scales right there, and also some really nice paintwork. They've done a great job of applying quite a few different variations of grays here, as we have lighter and darker shades of grays in the majority of the face, but as you lead up, you also have some blacks, and you also have some reds and stuff that show up very nicely through the course of the head of your T-Rex. The eye, if we get nice and close, you can see it's also really nicely painted. Very small eye, very impressive how nice that paintwork is. There's also a nice gloss coat to it. You can see that gloss coat shining. The nostrils are sculpted out there on the tip of the snout. Everything looks really good. Again, very 90s-like, if you ask me. As you lead down here, you can see that the Rex is sculpted with its mouth in an open position. We have kind of like a dark purplish tone for the inside of the mouth. The teeth are all sculpted individually. They're all painted very nice, very carefully. They have kind of like an off-white tone, and they as well sport a gloss coat like the eye does. You can also see the inside of the mouth sports a gloss coat for that nice saliva-like look, which is something you would definitely want to see. We've got the tongue sculpted there on the inside of the mouth, and I like that they've applied some variation of color in there, as we have kind of like almost like dark greenish sort of tones in there with the purplish tones. It's very interesting, gives it kind of a dark, gritty, kind of dirty sort of a look. Pretty much what I would expect to find on the inside of the mouth of a T-Rex. And you can see the detailing there on the inside of the mouth also looks pretty nice. Up there, it's a little hard to get in there to see it, but the shadows are kind of overtaking it. It does look really, really cool though. Another thing I really like about this is the fact that you can obviously see this is not a 3D sculpted model. This was sculpted the old-fashioned way, and I love that. Absolutely love that. But as you lead back, you can see the ear is sculpted out right there. As you lead along the upper part of the dinosaur, this is another thing that really gives me those 90s vibes, is we have some pretty tall kind of like ridges hanging off of the top, or sticking out of the top, I should say, of the spinal column here of our Rex. And I saw that a lot when I was growing up, kind of something that was often portrayed on Tyrannosaurus in like the mid to late 90s. So I really do like that addition to the model as well. And you can also see that we have kind of like rows of osteoderms leading down the course of the body, almost kind of like Carnotaurus-like, as far as those osteoderms moving down through the course of the body. Really nice naturalistic application of the paint, as well as we have a darker tone there running along the ridges on the top of the head, but then you transition very smoothly and naturally to some reddish tones as you move down here into the side of the neck. You can see the skin kind of bunching up and, you know, creasing and everything, because the Rex has its head turned toward its right, and they've nicely shown that off in the sculpt as well. You can see even some, you know, wrinkling and creasing here in the underside, and like just the skin bunched up here of the underside of the throat. But as you lead back up, you can also see how nice and naturally the coloration transitions, and again we have some variation of grays as you lead down here into the lighter grays of the underside. You can see that there is variation of gray, and you'll see that more as we continue to move along through the course of the body. You can also see some like blacks and stuff spotting here and there, and the shoulder blade as well is kind of protruding from the skin right there. As you move down, you lead down into the arm, you can see all kinds of skin, you know, wrinkling and creasing, showing the movement of the arm. This arm is held into the body here quite naturally. You can see the other arm is kind of held out away from the body a little bit. You've got some nicely sculpted fingers, nice kind of scoots down the fingers, and then some nicely sculpted nails. They have almost like a genuine sharp sort of an appearance to them. They're also given a kind of a dark gray, similar to we see the coloration running down from the forearm there down into the fingers. But as you lead back up here into the stomach, you can again see some more really nice looking skin texture, and you can probably really make out the variations of grays here in the stomach region, as there are definitely quite a few variations of grays, very obviously painted with an airbrush, which is one of the reasons why it looks so nice and natural, but it definitely looks great as far as the application of the paint, especially in that area. And again, the skin texture looks insanely nice looking as you move through, lots of really nice fine detail. And then as you lead back up, you've got more of those osteoderms moving through the course of the body. You can see the spinal column here running along the top of the dinosaur. I like that they've kind of highlighted a lot of those osteoderms with the black tone following along with those kind of rows of osteoderms. And you can see that the ridges decrease as you lead down from the head, but they start to kind of pick up and then get small and pick up and get small here as you move along the back of the dinosaur. Leading back here, you can see the hip bone very nicely protruding from the skin. You can also continue to see the spinal column moving along the back of the dinosaur, again with those ridges, and you can also see the ridges, just like the osteoderms, are continued to be painted with that black. As you lead down here, you can see some nice muscle definition in the thigh. We have that reddish tone kind of striping here along the thigh, but you also have blacks kind of bordering it and following it there, as well as lighter grays and stuff leading back. Very nice naturalistic paint application on this T-Rex. As you move down, you've got some creasing there in the joint of the knee. Really nice kneecap right there. Nice calf muscle as you move down a little bit further. They've also kind of highlighted the muscle definition with a black quite nicely, and you can really see the tensing in that leg as you move down. Super bird-like leg and foot sculpt for our T-Rex. You can see some nice scoots running down the front of the foot down into the toes, and you can also see that the toes are sculpted very nicely. And you can also take notice to the fact that this Rex clearly looks to be moving along at a pretty good speed, honestly, because that foot over there is up off of the ground. This foot already looks to be leaving the ground, so another really cool part of the model is the really neat dynamic positioning of it, and I like that the entire thing is held up by just this one little peg, and it seems to be holding up pretty well so far, so that allows it to have that really cool, again, quite dynamic visual of the Rex moving along at a pretty decent speed. As you move up here into the tail, you can see again skin wrinkles and skin creases galore leading up here into the tail, and then we continue to have some of those reddish tones sort of striping down, yet again kind of outlined with that blackish tone, and we can see that the ridges pick up here again in the tail. They become quite large, but they continue to increase and decrease in size as you move out. We have more of those osteoderms and stuff moving along, those kind of rows of osteoderms, more really nice subtle variations of like blacks and stuff have been applied as you lead out the length of the tail. Really nice looking paintwork, and you also have a really elegant curve, really elegant look to the tail here as you lead out with some nice bending going on, nice turning to the tail, which looks really good. As you lead along the underside of the tail as well, the detailing on the underside of the figure also looks really nice. You can definitely see they've applied a nice dark wash to it, so it highlights all of the detail quite beautifully. And then if we take a look at the opposing side of the Rex, you can again see the head sculpt looks really nice. They've dry brushed some lighter tones on the face to really highlight the detail. And as we continue to move back here along the body, you can see how the Rex is turning its head away from us, so you can see some tensing. You can also see how the skin is kind of stretching, especially right here off of the neck, pretty much exactly like you would want to see. But as you move down a little bit further, you can see this arm is held out a lot further compared to what we see on the, opposing arm. So very different positioning for this one, because the Rex, again, seems to be moving at a pretty high speed, and obviously is making a fairly sharp right turn. I don't know exactly what it's chasing down, but it's definitely chasing something. As you lead back here into the body, you can again see all the really nice detailing of the stomach region. It's really quite visible. Even though the leg's kind of picking up into the stomach, it's not quite at the point where it would be, obscuring the stomach. So we do still have a pretty good visual of the stomach on this side as well. Lots of skin wrinkles and creases here in front of the thigh, though, as the Rex is moving its leg up again. And you can see super nice looking, very smooth paintwork as you move along. And then again, we've got the nice looking thigh. We have the nice looking calf muscle really bulging, especially with the leg kind of crunching it there, just squishing it a little bit. You really see how it's bulging up there. You can see the kneecap in the front. And again, super bird-like visual for the leg here as that foot is picking up off of the ground, as it's actually about to go head back down, about to plant back down, and you can really get a good idea of the bone structure and everything. Again, very bird-like appearance. And then as you lead back out here into the tail, again, you see all the same sort of style of paintwork, same sort of style of sculpt. It looks just as awesome on this side as it did on the initial side. So if there's one thing my collection was lacking, it's kind of, besides Jurassic Park versions, kind of like mid to late 90s interpretations of a T-Rex. I now have probably the perfect interpretation of that here with this awesome Star Ace T-Rex. And with that, we also have a really nice looking base. Now we have this very high quality, very heavy and sturdy, surrounding to the base like you usually have for your Star Ace models. That makes sure that your model stays nice and stable. I absolutely love that they put some good weight on it to make sure it's nice and stable. But the base itself is awesome, and probably my favorite base that I've seen from any Star Ace release so far, as we have a really nice kind of forest setting. You can see that there's like some moss that's kind of growing here through the forest, and it looks really good. We've got some nice texturing to the ground. You have all sorts of, rocks and stones, and the paintwork is incredibly impressive because there is just a whole lot going on when it comes to the forest floor that we have here, and Star Ace absolutely nailed it as far as pretty much everything that I see here. And the way that we have the variations of browns and the greens and everything, it looks incredibly realistic, incredibly beautiful. You also have a log here that's kind of laying down, part of a tree, and look at the sculpt and paint on that. That as well looks as realistic and lifelike as it honestly gets. You also have a tree here, potentially the tree where that came from, that's kind of, got a broken part up here. And Star Ace did not hold back when it comes to the paintwork on this. It looks amazing everywhere you look. You also have some vegetation here as you move through, and those are like, extras added on. You can see they are movable, and that also adds to the overall visual, again, of the forest setting for our T-Rex. So, man, I absolutely love this base. Definitely my favorite base from any Star Ace release so far. And then on the underside, you can see, again, Wonders of the Wild series, Tyrannosaurus, and you can see Star Star Ace X Plus and Sculpted by Sean Cooper. And we also have these little circles on the underside to make sure it stays nice and stable and doesn't damage whatever you put it on. So that is an absolutely beautiful base to go with an absolutely beautiful T-Rex. And in case it wasn't quite as obvious when we were taking a look at it there's a little footprint right here for your Rex. There's also a little hole, so what you need to do to apply the Rex, you've got a little peg on the underside of the foot. You just have to line it up with that hole and then slide it into the footprint. There we go. Now it's slid in completely, and you can see your Rex is now standing proud, looking awesome. As far as the size goes, it's not absolutely massive, but that's pretty much where I would expect it to be when it comes to these Star Ace models for the Wonders of the Wild series. It still has a pretty darn good size. So lengthwise from the tail, and it's a little hard to get this exact measurement because the tail's curved, you're looking at about 14¼ inches or around 36 centimeters, maybe a little bit over. Not exactly a perfect measurement, but close enough, I would say. And then for a height, about 8½ inches or around the 21½ centimeter mark. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Star Ace Wonders of the Wild series T-Rex. And you can see it's definitely got a bit larger of a size than everything we have here. Definitely larger in size than Mr. Papo T-Rex, as you would probably expect it to be for being, more of a higher end model like this. You could definitely see it has a much nicer visual, much nicer size than everything else that we have here before it. And then, just in case you are a Star Ace collector, here is the Star Ace Concavinator for the Wonders of the Wild series next to the T-Rex to show off, again, the size difference. The Rex obviously is a bit larger, but as a whole, they're not too far off in size. Definitely larger with the Rex, absolutely longer, taller, everything. Well, I guess not technically taller if you look at the tail. The tail height of the Concavinator is really quite up there. But the size difference isn't all that far off as a whole. Fairly close, but clearly the Rex is larger. Then for another size comparison, we have the randoms, as we have the Safari LTDU Tyrannus, the Schleich Diabloceratops, and Collect A Deluxe Dimetrodon here. Next to the T-Rex, you can see again, obviously the Rex completely obliterates everything that we have here next to it as far as the size goes. Then we've also got another comparison with a Mattel Dilophosaurus and Velociraptor here next to the Rex, just to help. Actually, the Velociraptor's a little bit further forward than it should be. There we go. Now it's actually under the Rex. So this should help to again show you that the Rex does have a pretty good, pretty impressive size overall. And then when it comes to one final comparison, you can see what the Star Ace Rex looks like in comparison to the Nanmu Jurassic Park T-Rex. You can obviously see that the Nanmu Rex is a bit larger, though these are very different styles of Tyrannosaurs. But what is also cool about this is technically the Nanmu version is based on a 90s T-Rex, obviously with the 1993 Jurassic Park T-Rex, but we have the Star Ace version, which is based on, at that time, kind of more of a scientifically accurate attempt at a T-Rex from the 90s as well. So it's pretty cool to see two different versions of 90s Rex next to each other, but two different styles at the same time. So this brand new Sean Cooper Star Ace Wonders of the Wild series Tyrannosaurus Rex is absolutely awesome. I love this figure. I love this model. It's been such a joy to follow along with the Wonders of the Wild series. They've been producing some of the coolest prehistoric collectibles that I've ever seen, and I love the variety. There's just so much variety in their releases. Like, they just release so many different things. Like, they've got prehistoric mammals. They also have marine life. They've got dinosaurs. There's just a lot to their line, and they don't follow one specific trend of prehistoric creatures. They're just all over the place, and I absolutely love it. Now we have, I think this is the third dinosaur now in the line. Now, don't quote me on that because I have a really bad memory, but we did have a Spinosaurus, we had the Concavinator, and now we've got the T-Rex. And the T-Rex is absolutely gorgeous. Like, the sculpt is great, really nice, very highly detailed, pretty much screams Sean Cooper if you are familiar with his work. It really does have that classic Sean Cooper look and feel to it, and I'm not entirely sure exactly when the sculpt was made, so it may have already been made, actually, quite a ways back. I'm not positive on that, but it absolutely screams Sean Cooper again. It's very highly detailed and just awesome looking as a whole. But on top of that, we've got a really nice paint application for this one, and I'm really happy with the way that the final product has turned out. Again, it does look a little bit different from what we see on the promotional images for it. I think the coloration was a little bit more vibrant on the promotional images, but I actually like this version better than what I had seen on the promotional images, because I like the fact that even though we've got the reddish tones and stuff, they're not super vibrant. They're a little bit darker, a little bit more naturalistic looking, in my opinion, and more what I would expect to actually see on a T-Rex. So they did a very good job on the actual tones of color that they were chosen for it. The paint scheme, everything looks great as far as the paint job, and the actual paint job itself is really nice, naturally applied. They've done a very good job of adding in lots of different variations of color, all sorts of very slight differences in skin tone, which help to add realism to the model. Of course, we also have realism galore as you move through it, with things like the gloss coat on the inside of the mouth, the variation of color on the inside of the mouth, nice gloss coat on the eyes, and everything like that. So it really does help to bring the model to life even more. On top of that, we have an awesome base, definitely my new favorite base from any of the Wonders of the Wild series. We've got a really nice forest setting for the T-Rex, as it's kind of clearly chasing something down, looking for a meal. And we have, again, the forest floor perfectly recreated here in this release, with all sorts of vegetation, nice moss, and again, trees and everything in this scene. So that as well is an awesome addition to this model. Really kind of takes you into the moment, puts you in the scene with the T-Rex. And I think it's also very nicely sized, because even though it is a really nice high quality resin model, it's not gigantic as you often get when it comes to resin models. It's a very nice, very convenient size for displaying. So it's the type of model you can put on your desk at work, or you can put it on your mantle at home, or you can put it on your bookshelf, or wherever you want, and you're not going to have too hard of a time fitting it in, because it, again, even though it does have some pretty good height to it, because it's got a pretty cool dynamic pose to it, it still does have a pretty nice size where it's not too small, but it's not too big. It's definitely a really good size overall. So if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this right now on Big Bad Toy Store. So make sure you check that link. Go grab this absolutely awesome T-Rex before it sells out, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.